Business intelligence, or BI, has been the backbone of data-driven organizations for decades, but let's be honest with each other, our dashboards haven't really kept up with the complexity of today's businesses. Traditional BI gave us snapshots, which is great for looking backwards, but that's not always the case when you want to look forwards. And outside of the overly sliced pie charts, you know exactly what I'm talking about, we had beautiful visuals but slow insights. So here we are, and we are overloaded with data, and we want to get over here to the point we are taking some kind of action. Unfortunately, there are a lot of times when there is a large gap between that data and the actions or decisions that we want to make and take based on that data. These two are close together here on the board, but in reality, they could be miles apart. So you have your decision makers, your consumers, all these people using this BI stuff. They're actually drowning in reports and dashboards, but they're starving for insights because they want an easier path to know what the right action is. So unfortunately, a lot of those people, they end up down here. So what is next? The next evolution of BI isn't about prettier dashboards. It's going to be about smarter intelligence. We're moving from static visuals to dynamic conversations with our data. We have entered the era of conversational BI. Now, conversational BI sounds really cool and all, but how exactly do we get there? Well, part of the puzzle is large language models, or LLMs. Most people think of them as something like a chatbot, but under the hood, they're powerful knowledge synthesizers. They understand natural language, summarize complex patterns, and they can make data more human. These models are built on what's called a transformer architecture, a neural network design that uses attention mechanisms to understand context, relationships between words, and the meaning of an entire sentence, not just the individual tokens. So that's why when you ask a question, the model can grasp things like nuance, tone, and intent, producing responses that feel truly conversational and relevant. And this is just a friendly reminder, there are lots of LLMs out there, and they're great at different tasks. So you may have this one model that you love, you think it's your favorite one, but just remember, one LLM will not rule them all. So you have to make sure you find the one that is right for the job that you're trying to do. And even when you do find the right one, LLMs alone can't be trusted fully with enterprise data for what we're talking about. They're great at language, but not always as great at precision. And that is where RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation, comes in. RAG acts kind of like a librarian for your LLM. So when you go out here and you ask a little question, it's going to first convert that query into a vector embedding, which is essentially like a numerical representation of its meaning. That's going to go and search your vector database to find the most relevant documents or data points. And then those retrieved results are passed into the large language model, so we get an answer that's both context aware and grounded in truth. That truth, of course, being your own data. So let's just do a quick recap. The LLM helps with reasoning and context, while the RAG component is grounding us using real data. And in the end, we get accurate insights. Let's dive a little bit more into what that means for us. With RAG-powered BI, you don't need to doom scroll through endless dashboards. I get it. I know that it is so fun to dig through your bookmarks, your messages, and multiple applications to remember where the super cool sales dashboard is. I'm being sarcastic. But how about instead we just simply ask a question like, what's driving our drop in Q3 sales? That question is then converted into a vector embedding, and the LLM understands what we mean with this question. That's going to go out to our vector database, and that's where we have our trustworthy data. And that result is then passed into the large language model. And then we're going to get back a generated answer that's not only correct, but also contextually appropriate. And what's even cooler here is that these systems enable real-time conversational analytics. They can detect anomalies proactively, So you don't just learn what happened, you actually learn why and even what to do next. Now let's talk about a few use case ideas where conversational BI can be an absolute game changer for sales and customer behavior. So first up, let's say that a sales leader opens a chat and asks something pretty straightforward like what's driving our Q4 forecast variance by region. The LLM RAG system instantly pulls CRM data, pipeline velocity, historical trends, and market data. It then responds very conversationally with something like, your Q4 forecast is 8% below target, mainly due to delayed renewals in the Southeast. Competitor discounts are impacting your top 3 accounts. Now just think about that for a second. This is a huge jump from static reports, multiple dashboards, and lots of digging around to proactive conversational forecasting with real-time explanations as well. Pretty crazy. What about customer behavior? So another example here. A manager goes out and asks the system to summarize customer sentiment from last week's social and chat logs. The LLM is going to interpret the text, tone, and trends. And we get back a response that's something like, the overall sentiment is 76% positive. Customers report they are loving the new loyalty program, but there is a major negative theme around shipping delays. This is a great way to turn tons and tons of unstructured text into measurable business signals that you can actually do something about. To integrate something like this into your BI stack, it's going to require careful planning and follow the same kind of steps as kickstarting and leveraging pretty much any kind of AI project in your organization. And before you get too worried, just know that you don't need to rebuild your BI environment from scratch. Conversational BI can integrate with your current data warehouse, semantic layer, and visualization tools, effectively turning your existing infrastructure into a talking partner for your business. So as you're planning this, there are 3 things that you really need to think about: data access, governance and security, and ethics and bias mitigation. Very important topics, very exciting, I know, but just buckle up. Let's just ride this to the end. These represent a solid foundation to ensure LLM-powered BI systems are secure, reliable, and production ready. We're going to go through all 3 of these, and first up is data access. Conversational BI only works as well as the data that it can and should reach. The LLM needs access to the right files to answer questions accurately, but that doesn't mean you should give it all access to everything in your organization, to all that data. For example, if there's a database with social security numbers or salary information, there's probably only certain people who should be able to query that. Next is governance and security. Once data access is configured, we need to make sure things are done safely and within compliance. A great man once told me this analogy about security and governance being kind of like brakes on your car. So why do you put brakes on a car? So you can stop? No, it's actually so you can go really fast. It's only because of those brakes that you can safely take the risk of going really, really fast. So with the right governance and security measures in place, you can accelerate your AI while avoiding a crash. And the last one, ethics and bias mitigation. LLMs are very powerful, but they reflect the data that they're trained on. And that means they can pick up on our biases. So to fix that, we need transparency, diverse data, and humans in the loop to review. All right, the future of business intelligence. It's not about more data, it's about better dialogue. With LLMs and RAG, BI becomes less about reporting the past and more about shaping the future, one conversation at a time. I hope you're excited for what's next, because the future of BI is already here.